welcome to Bots and Beyond, your weekly dose of all things automation, mixing up end user, vendor and consultant experience to create your go-to podcast for bot-related insights. I am your host, Wayne Butterfield. Hi everybody and welcome back to Bots and Beyond, another excellent episode and guest with us this week. Let me introduce you briefly to Adam over at Humley. He's the CEO and founder, and it's great to have you on this week's episode.
Thanks a lot for having us. Much appreciated.
No, I think we've got a great topic this week for everybody. We're going to talk about mental health and, the role of technology in this world of remote working and how these two things are or could be used to assist with employee well-being. So we've got a great episode, a great conversation. I know we've got some data as well, which is always useful to help with the discussion. But less about the episode. Let's figure out more about Adam and the guys at Humley. So as is usually the case, can you do who you are, what you do and why you do it, please, Adam?
Sure. So I'm Adam Harrold, CEO of Humley, and we create conversational assistants for enterprise businesses. And we're currently concentrating on deploying HR assistants to support HR teams during the pandemic. So HR teams have been swamped because of the impact of COVID and remote working. And our technology really helps free up their time so they can concentrate on more strategic objectives and concentrate on staff issues while enabling employees to remain connected to the business 24/7 at a time when really employees are feeling very remote and isolated.
Fantastic. And as you can imagine, and as we've kind of discussed before, I've really felt the change. I know you will have felt the change, as many other people will have felt that change of going from a people-filled office, or in my case, clients' offices, here, there, everywhere, on a train, on a plane, takeaways on an evening in a hotel room on my own, having a bit of downtime with the laptop on the bed, and all of these things that are just, for me, were a way of life for the last kind of 5-6 years, and I worked out the other day that I'd left the house for work 3 times since February. So I'd gone from probably visiting 3 different countries a month, to not really leaving the house for work purposes, more than almost once a quarter. So, I know that's what I've been experiencing quite recently. It would be, what about you?
Yeah, I think there've been both positives and negatives. So I've seen my team and myself working more hours. There's no commute, and it's kind of easy just to keep going as you're always at your workplace. However, despite the longer hours, I think there are some elements that have been positive. So I can exercise in the morning, and I'm immediately with my family when I finish work. And that's something that the team have mirrored as well. But then I guess on the negative side, some of my team have felt very isolated, both from a work and a personal perspective. What we do is kind of hugely innovative, and that innovation comes from the culture that we've built and the interactions that occur spontaneously throughout the working day. And that's really hard to mirror remotely. It's a constant effort to ensure that we have the required interaction to continue to drive that innovation and the connectivity of the employees. And we've been doing that through a combination of team meetings, all hands meetings, and even having a beer on Zoom and doing a quiz on a Friday afternoon. And then also from a social perspective as well, there really isn't that much chit chat now when you're home working, especially when you're on a Zoom call. It's kind of just straight to business. And for some people, I think work builds a very big part of their social circle. Taking this away can be very impactful on an individual, and therefore businesses need to be aware of that. We recently carried out an employee survey with 300 respondents. And a headline stat that came out of that was 91% of employees would like to work from home all or some of the time. However, 69% of employees have been moderately to severely impacted by the change to remote working. So you can see that as the pandemic continues and as businesses change the way they work following the pandemic, there's a big problem to solve. Twitter, for example, have announced that all of their staff can work from home forever. And I'm confident that all businesses will change how they've previously used home working post-pandemic. So they will need to address the issues of remote working and mental health. What are your thoughts, Wayne, on those stats?
It's interesting because, I mean, I've obviously worked from home and not really been in an office permanently for a long time, since my days at O2. So, working from home, I've valued a lot, certainly over the last 6-7 years. What I haven't necessarily had and I guess wanted is to be permanently sat in a room. It's quite a small room, 4 walls, all white. It sounds like a bit more like a mental asylum than my office. There is some colour in it at least. And then just having the whole lack of interaction with people. And you are right. Even clients. I was speaking with one earlier on, and we'd go out once a month or something for lunch. Just a Nando's at lunch, but we'd get out the office. We'd talk a little bit of business. We'd talk a little bit about personal stuff, and just those type of interactions are just. You just can't replicate those on Zoom. You kind of can, but not during the office. Office times, it's fine having a beer in an evening, but because you're at home versus away, I struggle with, having 2 small children who, if I was to have a Zoom call between 5 and 6, that's at dinner time. And if I'm not at home because I'm out, that's fine. The wife just, deals with that on her own. If I'm at home and the kids know I'm at home, it just feels a bit strange to be up in my office having a beer on a Zoom call with clients, etc. But so I get it. I think home working, absolutely. There's something there though that needs to change, and whether it is just that ability to be home or office or home and out and about, it doesn't even have to be in the office. It just needs to have some additional human interaction. And I think it's really difficult for a lot of people to compute, like, what is it that they are missing? Because I know there were some other stats that came out that you guys have been working on that was basically saying that most people are okay with the working from home. I kind of was on a 1 to 10 scale, right? And I think most people were saying, hey, it's absolutely fine. I'm one of those people where somebody asks me, you okay? I'm going to say yes, because I think I am. I don't necessarily know when I'm not. And I think that's probably the risk that we're all under facing. It's kind of is it the known unknown? Or the unknown known. I'm not entirely sure which way it goes round, but you get the concept, right? I will always tell myself that I'm right, even when I'm not, because I don't realize that I'm not. And you need someone somehow to kind of help you understand that maybe you're not all right. So I think it'd be interesting to kind of explore that and how do we change that? Because if everybody is starting to work from home, how do we protect our people from themselves almost?
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of the biggest insights that we've seen is that people haven't been booking holidays. A big part of that is coming from the fact that there isn't anywhere to go at the moment. But the other element of that is that people are just zoned in on getting up, working, and just that pattern continuing. And based on what you were saying about realizing when you're not okay, I think that the role that technology has to play in this era is driving engagement with employees so that we can identify insights and patterns so that HR departments and organizations can then be very proactive in terms of actioning those insights and taking positive steps with employees to improve their working life and ensure their mental health is exactly where it needs to be. Some of the other stats that we had was we asked a question around what has been the most challenging aspect of working from home or working remotely. 25% reference low motivation, 31% referenced isolation and lack of connectivity with my team or organisation. 31% reference working overtime with difficulties balancing personal time and working hours, and 13% reference technology issues, so things like can't connect to systems or find information easily. So you can see there's kind of 4 elements that businesses need to look at and understand how they manage those.
Great. And you mentioned the kind of role of technology. Let's be more specific on that. And I guess one of the challenges that HR departments have got at the moment is, certainly in larger organizations, got hundreds, thousands, potentially tens of thousands of staff that are no longer on premise, to use a more technical term. And I guess what that means is that the HR department, as you mentioned before, absolutely run ragged with various different things, and probably checking in on the people that are not making noise is rightly or wrongly, a bit lower on the priority list because you've got so many other burning platforms that you're trying to sort. Is there a role for proactive conversational AI to fill some of that void? And you've got to imagine, if you able to understand and find triggers in responses, look at sentiment analysis in the replies, that even a bot conversation, a conversation with a bot, which is asking some very specific questions. They're there for a reason, and I've seen these type of surveys before, stress surveys and other things. It's like, that'll never work, I'll fill this in, but they understand the responses and what they might mean, the underlying tone, etc. Now, that's not for the bot to fix the problems, but it is potentially for a bot to assist with highlighting or flagging some potential challenges or some potential problems, underlying issues, concerns to HR, for them to take a more human action, such as getting on some one-to-ones, person to person. Is that the type of assistance you think that there's an opportunity for? I mean, I would have said go back 6 months, that thought wouldn't have even crossed my mind as a use for conversational AI. Now I'm thinking it's almost a no-brainer. Like, what do you think?
Certainly. And look, by no means should we look to replace kind of the human element within the process. Far from it. In fact, we need to look at how we free up the HR teams to focus on these issues while providing experiences that will drive employee engagement and will help to identify where issues lie. Conversational experiences, as you say, are often very reactive, relying on employees to have an issue in order to engage. And one of the things we're doing at Humley is we're really flipping that on its head. So going out to users to drive experiences, which increases that engagement and drives positive experiences and insights. So examples of that would include understanding how your staff are feeling with a weekly survey, as you mentioned, and just the fact that then you have that data, what HR departments can do with that. I mean, it certainly flags insights into wellness and mental health. Secondly is providing recognition, so for staff that have overperformed. And another example, as we've touched on, is ensuring that staff are booking holiday and that they're taking the time off to kind of remain fully charged and not burning out. And I think flipping that from a reactive to a proactive approach, it just changes the ethos of that engagement. So you're not waiting for an employee who, let's face it, if they have mental health problems or are suffering, they might not necessarily make that reach out to a human or an AI bot. However, if you're proactively going out and pushing that communication in user experiences that will drive insights to identify problems, then it really puts the business on the front foot and it empowers the HR department to go and make that communication. At the same time, through all of the kind of admin type experiences that we can provide, it means that you're reducing that impact on the HR team so that actually they can go and provide these more personable experiences.
Great, and I guess one of the things that kind of came to me as you were discussing that is, the bot doesn't just have to be proactive and work with the employee from a kind of employee well-being perspective and check in on how they're doing, but actually it could be used then to do things like book leave and other things, so that it's kind of two-way, right? It's the whole checking in well-being angle is just another thing that conversational AI can do to assist HR departments, employees be more productive and do some stuff. So I guess that's kind of really interesting. I can now really start to see how this technology type, really takes off in the world as we see it now, which I think is really useful. Is there any kind of other, in your view, any other areas that conversational AI can assist employees, HR departments right now? Any other kind of user cases you can think of?
Yes, certainly. The conversation today is around mental health, but these type of experiences, I believe, span kind of 4 areas, which all lead to you being more connected to the business, which naturally then improves your well-being and your connectivity. So the first one of those is connectivity. So employees want to feel that they're up to date. So things as simple as company updates, progress on PDRs and personal objectives, and company-wide projects are really important. So if you're not getting that from those day-to-day interactions, providing a platform to be able to push that down to your employees is really important. Secondly is problem solving. So employees want to feel self-empowered to solve problems. So access to data, presentations, company materials that they can query independently for answers is really important. So being able to go and self-serve to answer questions at a time where talking to co-workers is more difficult is critical. Then admin. So the ability to do more of those kind of mundane tasks, like looking for policy information and procedures, holiday booking, carrying out tasks like changing personal information, or even asking questions about COVID and return to work policies. All those things being packaged up so that you can access it at any time to suit you and not impact the HR department is really important. And then finally, and what we've touched on, is something that I call positivity. So looking after employees and providing access to mental health support materials. So wellness surveys, recognition, and access to those mental health materials are really important. But you can see here that there is a real split between kind of information, task completion, and well-being. And these experiences need to be integrated into the existing kind of human capital management solutions like SAP, Workday, Oracle, Sage, just to name a few, so that you're continuing to interact with those existing systems. But more importantly, they should be accessible in the channels that the employees are operating on, like Teams, Workplace, or Slack, for example, because we've found that opening up the access to the HCM systems through conversation on employee channels drives a much higher engagement than operating through something like your typical CMSs or web forms. Employees want to be empowered, they want to be engaged, and they want that information, whether that's from a knowledge store or a HCM system, or from presentations that their colleagues have been building in the recent weeks. So providing a uniformed access in order to be able to access those experiences and information is what's key to keeping people connected and empowered.
Great. I think loads of great user cases there, and I think it's probably a good time to kind of draw the conversation to a close. I think what we've discussed really is that there is absolutely a role, I would say, for conversational AI to play in employee well-being. It's clearly not the only role that it can play. And so, it's been fantastic to pick this topic up with you. I know it's a really important topic for a lot of people. And so thank you for your insights. I think it's been fantastic. Any kind of final words, Adam?
Sure. I guess as we move into what will certainly be a new era in terms of working practices, we need to ensure that we're using technology accordingly to provide a connected environment for our employees. That will not only help mental health, but it will also help staff retention, productivity, and ultimately business success.
Great. I think that is a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I will speak to you next week.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks for listening to ISG Automation's Bots and Beyond podcast, your weekly dose of all things automation. See you next week for more news and views on RPA, intelligent automation, and AI.